This is 5 on 20 News, where the news is fresh and the newscasters are fresher, with Ani Esquintella
and Alex Smythe,
coming to you live from our studio in downtown Tucson. First, the local headlines.
As protests continue in North Dakota, one Prescott Valley teen is running 1,400 miles in protest of the Dakota Access Pipeline. Riley Ortega is a 15-year-old sophomore, a cross-country runner, and a Hopi from the Spider Clan. If completed, his run would become one of the largest protests of the $3.7 billion oil pipeline project to date. The run, being called Perseverance for Preservation, takes him from Flagstaff to the protest site in Cannonball, North Dakota. Other runners, many from Native American tribes, will join him for segments of his journey to help draw attention to the issue. Ortega hit the road on Friday.
And as Election Day gets scary close, Vice Presidential candidate Tim Kaine has made plans to visit the Old Pueblo this Thursday. Kaine's visit will follow Hillary Clinton's trip to Phoenix on Wednesday. This makes her the first Democratic candidate to run competitively in Arizona in 20 years. Polls show that she and candidate Donald Trump are running neck and neck in the state. This fact means Arizona is a battleground state this election cycle, and national media has taken notice. Historically, Arizona has consistently voted Republican, with Bill Clinton in 1996 being the last Democrat to win the state. Before Clinton, the last Democrat to win Arizona was Harry Truman in 1954. Tim Kaine arrives in the state as the only person in this election that still has a soul. There's no Tim Kaine sex tape, no sexting scandal, no racist mic slips, no scandals at all. But with a week left, there's plenty of time for Kaine to join the club and insult minorities or grope a TV reporter as tradition is dictated. But more likely, Kaine will play his old likable self and quickly be forgotten. If Tucsonans are lucky, they'll get a jaunty version of Old Gray Mare on the harmonica, which will probably be as edgy as it gets.
Doctors in Pima County are seeing a spike in children being poisoned by opioids. The increase aligns with the study done by the Yale School of Medicine, finding that opioid poisoning among 2 to 4-year-old children increased by 205% in 2012. An ER doctor in Tucson claimed that out of 900 emergency room calls involving opioids, about 10% pertained to children in 2015. The Yale study said that the increase in poisonings come from an increase in opioid prescriptions, including those for Oxycontin and fentanyl. The study cautions that prescription drugs need better controls and labeling to keep children from getting a hold of the pills.
And Customs and Border Protection agents have made an interesting drug bust. A man was caught while attempting to smuggle meth into the U.S. outside of hollowed-out tortillas. Clever. But the sweet smell of corn was not enough to confuse a canine. The drugs were detected by dogs, and then the man was pulled aside for further inspection and arrested.
Hashtag shots fired. A group of elected officials from Colorado has called out an anti-Proposition 205 group from our own state. This group of Colorado officials, which includes Representatives Jonathan Singer and Millie Hamner, Senator Pat Stedman, sent a letter to leaders of Arizonans for Responsible Drug Policy. In that letter, they say the anti-marijuana group is irresponsibly spreading misinformation. Arizonans for Responsible Drug Policy has produced and aired television ads which feature former Colorado school employees and a former mayor of Denver who claimed that schools were promised revenue from marijuana taxation, but that the school received nothing. Colorado officials say that these claims, quote, range from highly misleading to wholly inaccurate. They went on to disclose a fact sheet produced by the Colorado Department of Education showing that $138.3 million were distributed to Colorado schools. While we don't staff a full-time economist here at the 5 on 20, we feel that $1 million is widely more what a majority of people consider a small loan. And we are fairly certain that $138.3 million is in fact a lot more than nothing, which leaves us one question to ask Arizonans for Responsible Drug Policy: why are you lying? And now in national and international news.
Just when we thought this election couldn't get any weirder, the Russians pull out the final plot twist, and this one is equal parts Manchurian Candidate, Hail Caesar, and Rocky IV. Mother Jones magazine quoted a veteran spy who claims that Russia has been exchanging information with Donald Trump. This spy says Russia has actively planned to get Trump elected for the past 5 years. The spy, who goes unnamed in the article, says that Russia's ultimate plan is to destabilize the West. He claims that Russia is blackmailing Trump after the famously gropey candidate was compromised upon a visit to Putin's paradise. Trump allegedly receives regular correspondence with Russian intelligence circles, including information via a bug of Hillary Clinton's phone calls from when she visited the country. Concern over Russian meddling has received a fever pitch the last 2 weeks, as the FBI continues to believe that Russian hackers were behind the recent email leaks of Hillary Clinton and former aide John Podesta's emails.
At the same time, Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, is being investigated by the FBI for his past dealings with Russia. Also, Carter Page, who was named one of Trump's foreign policy advisors, has proven to have several financial ties with Russia. As if the news weren't Russian enough, Slate magazine reported that a Trump Foundation server showed lots of unusual activity with Alfa Bank, the largest private bank in Russia. Alfa Bank is connected to Vladimir Putin and the Russian oligarchy. Yes, all of this stuff came out on the same day, and we haven't even delved into the new Trump tax avoidance story, which in comparison is like he was caught jaywalking. Much of the information released about Trump and Russia is still being vetted and can't be confirmed yet, but I think it's safe to say that we're in for a thrilling conclusion that involves Hillary Clinton firing off one-liners while escaping from a fiery Russian submarine. Maybe we'll even find out that Trump actually stands for TRUMP, Terrible Russian Undermining Machine Person.
In other disturbing election news, federal investigators have secured a warrant to search a top Hillary Clinton aide's emails. The order came down on Sunday under intense public pressure. This means once again a presidential candidate's legal troubles will be publicly discussed in the final days of a campaign for the highest position in power of all the land. FBI Director James B. Comey has faced a whole lot of criticism since he first announced the discovery of these new emails in a letter to Congress late last week. The emails were discovered by the FBI when they were investigating ultimate pervert Anthony Weiner.
2 decades later, California is rethinking their ban on bilingual education. The ban dates back to 1998, when 61% of California voters supported the institutionalization of English-only education. Almost 20 years after Prop 227 passed, bilingual education is still a hotly debated topic. Critics of the new Prop 58 feel that a return to bilingual education will stunt young English learners' ability to read and write in English. Others believe that children must be instructed in the combination of their home language and the dominant language to succeed. Race and class also tie into the argument, as both proponents and critics point to the fact that 1 in 5 children in California are not proficient in English, and fewer still are bilingual. Unsurprisingly, our prized Arizona voters also passed bilingual education restrictions in 2000. 16 years later, xenophobia is still alive and well in the Southwest.
And yesterday, bees were added to the endangered species list for the first time ever. Specifically, 7 different types of bees, all originally from Hawaii, are now considered endangered. The human public easily forgets that bees are a keystone to the food industry, and a disappearance of bees would have a detrimental impact on Earth ecosystems. In the U.S. alone, it is predicted that bees pollinate around $9 billion worth of produce every year. Experts say that while several species of bees have been added to the endangered species list, in reality, all bee species populations have been declining quickly in recent years. Habitat loss, pesticides, and a loss of genetic diversity all have aggravated the problem.
In the last few weeks, the iPhone 7 has hit the market. Apple commercials boast that the new phone is waterproof and has a better camera, but what they haven't mentioned is that a new iPhone 7 may get you a house and turn you into a seasoned heartbreaker. In China this week, a woman sold 20 iPhone 7s to a cell phone recycling company for around $17,000. She then used this money to buy herself a house. These transactions have been confirmed. The most jaw-dropping part of the whole story is that she claimed all 20 iPhones came as gifts from her boyfriends. The hashtag 20 mobiles for a house has now been used more than 13 million times in China, and in the process, the happy homeowner has become a digital dating icon. Here at the 5 on 20, she's inspiring us to start a catfishing awareness campaign. Warn your friends.
This was Ani Esquintela
And Alex Smythe.
for 5 on 20 News. Next, I'll be talking to you about art type stuff with Samantha Bonquilla. This is Ani Esquintela for 5 on 20 News, and I'm here to talk Tucson art. And I have with me Samantha Bonquilla. She's a local violinist, and she also curated and was the visionary behind a Generation Why Me art installation. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the art installation that you just put on.
Absolutely. Generation Why Me was an exhibition or event, show, huge perspective of artists that I curated, and it's taken me about a year to put together. But it featured visual and performance artists all within the millennial generation. And it happened one night only. It was Saturday, October 29th, in an art space that was donated by a local artist, Olivier Mosset. And there were installation sculptures, live tattooing, photographs, 3 bands, a DJ, a spoken word artist. We had someone scheduled to do live hair cutting that evening. It was a huge coming together of people in our generation, yours and mine, millennials. Yeah,
It's really interactive.
Yeah, interactive very much.
So that term millennial, it has a pretty negative connotation. I personally don't like it at all. There's a lot of frustration.
No, I don't think many of us do.
So why did you choose to center the work around millennials?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I was really looking for a commonality between millennial artists. So let me just tell you a little bit about how I got inspired to do the show. I think I was driving up to Phoenix for like a baseball game, and on NPR a show came up, and it was a show about our relationship as a society with screens, and it was talking about just infants that were going up to the TV screen and swiping, and that there was this immediate satisfaction that individuals, or babies, were getting from creating something on technology, the relationship with a screen. I was talking about our identities as individuals being on social media and not, and how this sort of dual identity, what that was creating in terms of like our interactions with each other and our interactions with people digitally. And I really felt like this idea, our relationship with screens, was particular to our generation being maybe the last one that can remember picking up a phone that's connected to the wall, or like dial-in. Did you have that?
Yeah.
Like AOL?
Couldn't be on the phone
Yeah.
at the same time
Exactly.
you're IMing.
No,
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
Though that was a problem, right?
Yeah.
And no longer is a problem. And so I wanted to see if, how those trends were influencing our work creatively. Like, I think when I think about when I want to create an art piece, I think there's a lot of stimulation involved in your environment. And I think more than ever, our generation takes in all of that stimulation, and I wanted to figure out how that stimulation was affecting their creative process. So I think that's why it was so important for me when I was curating the show to have artists of so many different medias.
And there really were. There was string art and...
Oh, string art, yes, absolutely. We had a string artist. Like I said, we had a photographer. We also actually had a digital film artist as well. She's a student at the Tucson Institute. And she was projecting on the wall outside behind the bands.
Right.
Yeah. And there was actually an installation, like there was a social media aspect that was built into the show. As I said, it's taken me a year to put together, and about a month before, we had this kickoff promotion event, which was hosted by Thunder Canyon Brewery. I have to say thank you to them. They did an amazing job. They hosted us, and they donated a bunch of the proceeds that night from the kickoff promotion event to the show, which made it possible. But at that time, it was exactly a month before, we launched this social media live Insta feed thing, Graham. So all the artists from that point on were hashtagging Generation Why Me on Instagram, and it would show up live on this live feed, and we projected that at the show as well.
Yeah.
So that was like a built-in component. Mostly I wanted someone to walk into the space, and I wanted them to feel that kind of stimulation.
Yeah.
I wanted the viewer to be inundated in the same way with lots of things going on. So there were a lot of things going on. There were hanging monkeys. There's a hanging monkey installation.
I was going to say one of my favorite artists was Autumn Bree. She did the really cool kaleidoscope,
Correct.
social anxiety inspired
exactly.
work. But it was actually like a turnable kaleidoscope that you could move and see her wax sculptures that she built inside of it. creating a
Absolutely.
kaleidoscope effect.
Yeah, it was a huge kaleidoscope, and she actually made the beads out of resin, and they were like hands and faces and people, and it was just, yeah, it was a commentary on social anxiety, which I think was a theme actually that ended up happening throughout all of the artists.
organically
Yeah,
through,
exactly. No, you could see, like, even in the tattoo artist, we had a tattoo artist doing live tattooing at the show, but she was also showing her pieces, and her pieces were kind of a combination of her own paintings and album artwork, and there was a lot of tension in the pieces between like technology and like landscape and sort of that inundation of, I think that was a common theme in the show. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, definitely.
okay.
I think it was a really beautiful, positive spin on the term millennial. Because, like I said,
Oh,
there's a lot
thank
of
you.
frustration behind that term, but it was cool to see it
Right.
shown in a more positive, inspiring light.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was almost with some irony that we coined the title of the show Generation Why Me.
Right, yeah.
Right.
It felt ironic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And as a millennial, I'm really happy that you felt that way
Yeah.
coming to the show. No.
So I know a lot of people are really bummed they didn't get to go to the show.
Mm.
What projects are you involved in now, or what do you have planned for the future?
Lots of things. I'm still recovering from the show. Lots of things. I think I'm constantly collaborating in lots of different projects. I play in a lot of different bands around town. Most coming up the soonest is a thing called Chamber Lab that Chris Black curates, and essentially he goes in, he finds bands and he gets them to compose. These songwriters to compose classical music, and then he performs classical music in non-classical venues. So we have a show at Hotel Congress booked for November 12th, and I actually have one of my own compositions there, and it's a duet for 2 violins. But it's a really great sort of cross-genre way of like getting people to be, just more in the conversation of what's, what is classical music, what is non-classical music, and how can we like bring them together and like find commonality,
Cool.
Yeah. So that's coming up, and then otherwise, Autumn Bree, actually you mentioned, installation artist, talked about wanting to work with my band to create a live sound wall installation piece for us to play while performing.
very
We just
interesting.
mentioned it at the show the other night, but it
Yeah.
sounds like something I would
Cool.
love to work with.
A lot of cross-platform kind of
Exactly.
evolutions going on right now.
Exactly, which is I think particularly millennial.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
I'm pretty bummed that I had to go to the event kind of late. I missed out on being live tattooed there, but I want to put your tattooing skills to the test and see if you can tattoo me.
I will try my best.
Okay.
I would love to try. All right. So, do you have any requests?
I have no requests. I'm
Okay.
giving you full creative range.
Okay.
So there's so many cool things happening in the Tucson art community right now. She put this event on this past Saturday. MoCA just opened their new fall exhibits, which you can see from Wednesday to Sundays, 12 to 5 p.m., and it's a $5 admission fee. There's also a Stranger Things inspired art exhibit going on at Expanded Universe. That one you can find out more at their website, which is going to be expandeduniverse.org. And the whole art exhibition is based off of Stranger Things, the Netflix series, which is really cool too. What do you have going on over
How's
here?
it going? I'm doing a portrait.
Cool.
I don't know if you can recognize it.
It looks a little bit like Donald Trump to me.
Oh,
from this
no.
angle.
It's supposed to be you. I am a violinist.
Ouch.
I am not a tattoo artist. So.
Very cool.
How's that look?
It's pretty good.
That's not bad. See, you're looking at it upside down. That's the reason.
Yeah, it's a little bit less like Donald Trump now.
All right.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. This was Anya Squintello for 5 on 20 News.